What is up, you guys? Welcome back to Twink Revolution. I'm Sam.
And I'm Gian. And we're here with very special guest, Matt Muck. Matt, how's it going?
Hello. Hi, Sam and Gian.
Hi.
This is Matt Muck.
So Matt is an adult performer, I think it's fair to say. And an occasional Twink Revolution listener, we learned, which is pretty cool. We're
definitely a Twink Revolution listener.
Yeah, so we're very excited to have you. For people who aren't maybe familiar with what you do and where you fit into the pantheon of adults after dark entertainments, could you tell us a little bit about where might people have seen you, or who might be most interested in your creative outputs?
I do porn. I also escort, but I bet you might know me from Twitter, Tumblr. I don't know. I work with different studios. I kind of like have a working class looking edge, like wear lots of gear or something. I don't know, like Wranglers, boots, stuff like that. I also do porn. I work. Is that what you're asking? Like what?
Yeah.
I shoot for a lot of different companies. Like I don't even know if I could remember them all or something. They're all just like all over the place or whatever.
You're a true southern boy, right? With sort of some bayou vibes, right? I mean, sort of there's a.
I live in Mississippi, but truthfully, I'm actually from the East Coast.
Oh, so it's all fake. Wow, that's where this interview is over.
Sorry to ruin your illusion.
Yeah. God damn it.
Sorry to ruin your illusion. Yeah. Sorry to ruin my own illusion.
So we were really excited to have you on to chat through both a bunch of stuff. You're obviously you were a big sort of Bernie supporter online and things like that. We share a politics and move in certain political circles together, but we also wanted to get your perspective because I feel like the online left in particular, and then like maybe the gay left online kind of gets into like sex worker discourse a lot, and so we figured rather than like a bunch of fucking nerds whose exposure to porn is like enjoying porn, on this, like kind of get your perspective. So I wanted to just start off by asking you, like, what do you feel about the term sex worker? Like, how do you even feel about it?
I mean, I kind of feel like it sounds cheesy, to be honest, but also like I don't really have a better, I don't know. I'm not sure if I really think about that term that much. I mean, I think it's kind of a cheesy term. Like, I think that it's an overused term, is what I think. I think there's like a lot of people who like, this has been their job. Like I've been doing this for 13 years. Like it's been my full time. Like this is how I've made money for 13 years, and I don't even know if that word was used that much when I first started like escorting and doing porn and stuff. But like, I do feel like it's definitely like a funny thing. It's funny to see people like, like who are actually like lawyers or who have like really high salary jobs, but shoot some OnlyFans videos or something on the weekends for fun, calling themselves sex workers. Cause you're like, what? Like, why do you even charge? You know what I mean? Like I hooked up this daddy one time in Dallas and he kind of was like, he like made OnlyFans videos and, but he's like this giant house, like he was a lawyer, you know what I mean? Like
no, he's a sex worker. What are you talking about? He's the most oppressed of all people.
And like he was not a particularly like like he wasn't on the left in any sense, you know what I mean? Like actually, like I remember him saying some like insults about Bernie people or something, and I was like, what? Okay, whatever. Like, and just thinking, I don't know. I don't really know if he would identify as a sex worker, him specifically, but I would say that there's definitely types like that.
Yeah.
Who like definitely take that term for sure.
So how did you get into sex work, and like are porn and escorting? Like, what was the catalyst that got you into the industry?
I when I first started, I was living in New York, and I needed a this is a funny thing. I don't know, but like this is just how it went or whatever. But like I needed a bike, and I wanted to get a nicer bike or something. So or it wasn't even a nice bike. It was like just some shitty bike from the store. But like I just wanted a working bike, more so than a nice bike. But and I posted an ad on Craigslist. This is like the Craigslist era or whatever, and at that time I just like would charge. I was like $60, cool, like whatever, and then I don't know, at some point like I met probably somebody who identified more as like the term a sex worker, and they're like $60, like $100, like what do you mean, like, and I don't know, then realized that I could actually make money doing what I was doing or something.
Do you feel like there's kind of, I guess, getting back to things like the term sex worker, that there's like a glossing of some of the like the distinctions around the term, right? It encapsulates a lot of people between those who are doing maybe like incidental survival sex work, or
Yeah,
giving a blowjob for a hamburger or a bike, say, versus like the people who are like have a college degree and have an OnlyFans on the side or something.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I know. I think it's kind of unfair to group all those people into one category. Like we all have like really different experiences. Like I have a very for no better like term, like I have a very privileged experience, you know what I mean, like in what I do. Like, yeah, clearly survival sex workers like are not, it's like hip to be poor now or something. I don't know, like maybe is that what it is? Like, yeah. I don't know, like it's like a hip to be working class or something maybe. And so like it is true that I think a lot of people probably use that term to make themselves like seem to be more working class, like they want to everyone's always trying to put themselves on the same level. Like, you don't want to be poor, but then like you want to put yourself on the same level as poor people for some reason, or you know what I mean? Like
there's sort of a valorization.
You don't want to be a construction worker. What was that?
There's like a valorization of the sort of the proletarian aesthetic, right?
Yeah, that's a better Marxist term. There we go. Yeah,
that's what we're here for. See, we just throw in some pretense.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's definitely a fetishization of it. Like like people. Like another example I was going to give is, people don't want to work, maybe like construction jobs or like I don't even know, something like that. But they want to wear Carhartt or something.
Yeah,
like.
Everyone wants to be a podcaster,
like maybe
a true worker, instead of like, working in a college or like an academic or something.
Yeah.
So what has your experience been like in the gay porn industry? And like, I don't know if you're familiar at all with like any straight porn actors, but like, how does your experience differ from them? Because we hear a lot about straight porn and the issues and stuff, but not so much about gay porn.
It feels like people tend to gloss these industries together, both in the same way of using the term sex work as an umbrella term. They'll also kind of conflate the experiences of, say, gay porn or gay escorts, and maybe some of the like the kind of different gender dynamics that play for like straight porn actors, say.
Yeah, I think this is really interesting because sometimes I obviously read a lot of like leftist Twitter, like and like I read like the things that you post on Twitter and like things like Amy posts on Twitter and like that whole genre, all these genres of like leftist Twitter. And one thing that I think is interesting is I'm like, people will say these things, not so much you guys, but like not to like put people in identity categories, but like straight leftists will say these things, and you're like, man, like that doesn't really apply to gay world, like, or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's just very different. Like, they'll talk about certain, like, yeah, I don't really know that much about straight porn world, straight escort world. Like, I know more about straight escort world than I know about straight porn world. But I do think that I think that that gay porn world is a little bit different. Like, I think I don't know. I mean, it's funny. Like, definitely. So, like, the reality is that, like, most and stop me if I'm, like, getting off subject or something.
Oh,
but,
no, we don't have an on subject around here.
Okay. I think that, so, like, I'm not sure if most people realize this, but I'm going to go ahead and make a generalization that most people who make porn, like, I'm only going to talk about gay porn world because I really just don't know anything about straight porn world. But, like, I would say, like, pretty much all people in gay porn world, like, are also escorts. Like, the porn doesn't pay that well, and it's more of an advertisement. There are, however, definitely some people who are not escorts, and I would say most of them, it's like sort of like sexual hobby, the same way that OnlyFans is for them or whatever. Like, they just want the credit of being in a porn. Like, I don't say that in this. I know it's funny. Like, I don't want to be like, oh, you have cred and you don't have cred, and, like, you haven't been doing this for 13 years. Like, I don't want to be that person, but, like, but definitely, like, yeah, like, I would say that there's definitely, like, I don't really run in this sect of gay world, but I think for some people it's very meaningful for their credentials or something. I don't know.
I mean, there's I think certainly we've known people who have, say, tech jobs where they're earning a comfortable six figures or something, and, like, also doing porn for like shooting porn for studios. But it's clearly just a very different thing from if your job is effectively, as you say, like escorting, but then you're doing porn as a loss leading kind of promotional exercise in order to get the lucrative escorting gigs. And it's interesting you say that, given that people don't. I mean, I feel like there's sort of an illusion or some weird hangover of the days of, like, that to be a porn star was the pinnacle of, like, you've made it and you can just sort of do cocaine and buy sports cars like Dirk Diggler or whatever all day. Versus it's really not particularly lucrative often these days, right?
Yeah, maybe that was like maybe in a different era that was like something, but definitely not now. Like, I don't know about the 70s. Like, I don't know, what's that movie with Marky Mark? Like, it seemed like those some of those
Boogie Nights.
Say, but yeah. So yeah. Wait. So you asked like some things, like controversies, like in straight porn, right? Like, I feel like there's like a lot of talk about like exploitation and like people will talk about like that it really pushes body types and stuff like that, or like like pushes beauty standards, or people will talk about being stereotyped a lot. I guess like people talk about that too with gay porn, like stereotypes. Like, it's I don't know. I think that's like definitely really prevalent, but I think that like I actually kind of think that I was thinking about this earlier. I was like, if they ask me this question, what am I going to say? And I was thinking that if they ask about like stereotypes and like how porn pushes stereotypes or something like that, or pushes like what we view sexually a certain way, I guess what I was going to say is that I guess I don't know if I can really back this up, but I kind of actually feel like society pushes those stereotypes and those beauty standards or whatever, and that actually porn is just providing what people already want.
Well, there's certainly a market logic,
because
right?
Of those.
To like, it's their demand is created,
Yeah, because I just think like if somebody has like a certain fetish, you can't just show them a different fetish and think it's going to get them off. Like if somebody, I don't know. I mean, yeah. I mean, maybe you could. I don't know. I don't think so, but
yeah. No, I mean, presuming that's the idea. Is like we work in a very sort of specialized way in terms of the if you are a young man bored at home with a high-speed internet connection and you pull up a porn site, it's divided into all these sort of categories, and it's catalog shopping for, this is exactly what you want to see. And that, that's not necessarily a production of porn companies. I mean, porn companies were pretty happy to sell you anything, right? I think if you're willing to pay for it or, click ads, or whatever, right?
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
So just you touched on it a little bit earlier, but as you're probably aware, in the Twitter leftist world, there's a big difference of moralism. There's one side of the left that's sex work is amazing and it's liberatory, and the other's it's all exploitation of these young, dumb girls, and basically sex trafficking and stuff. And I'm like, how do you feel about this kind of binary of how people perceive the sex industry and the workers in it?
Yeah, I kind of think I think both of those sides have. Well, I don't really believe that a job can be radical personally. Any job, whatever it is. I think you're just I think you're doing a job and I think you can enjoy your job. I got in an argument with some guy off of one of Amy's tweets once, and he was like, "There's no way that you can truly enjoy your job." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know. I do. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. That's I enjoy it. But do I think it's radical? No, I don't think it's radical. Would I rather what was that episode that you had? Would I rather live in a gay space,
luxury gay space communism?
What was that? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I would get bored there too, but I don't know. But
well, I mean, you could presumably still, provision sex for the public good there too.
I guess that's true. That's true. So yeah, I find it annoying, this sex work is radical concept. I just don't agree with it. I don't know. I can read you this thing if you want that I had Chris write up for me, but it says people have this idea that the logic of prostitution is selling your soul for money, but in fact, I think the logic of neoliberalism is closer to that than prostitution. I sell my body, not my soul, for money, and then go about my life. But neoliberal subjects, as in yuppies, are always on the clock and never. They're unable to separate their professional life from their regular life. And I said, my job as a sex worker affords me the luxury of having a separation from my life and my work. And the worst combination. So then I went in to say the worst combination in there is sort of neoliberal sex workers who identify as sex workers. Foremost, it feels like they're truly selling their souls by identifying as sex workers ahead of everything else.
Right. I mean, it kind of makes sense that if you've both internalized the logic that would make any job soul destroying at a sort of different level, because you have done the work of reducing your own value to your value as a market actor, and then you layer on top of it that kind of what's the it was Victor Grodecki or whatever, the guy directed that movie Body Without Soul, where he interviews a lot of these teenage Czech basically teenage gay prostitutes in Prague in the 90s, and there's this kind of amazing line where it says that kind of I what I'm selling is a body without a soul, effectively. And so but if you combine those two, horrible.
You're saying one of the interviewees said that? One of the people being interviewed said that?
Basically some 15-year-old Czech gay prostitute or whatever is saying no, I'm not, I believe, I can't remember. It's a really profound line. He's sort of saying I still believe in love and beauty in the world, and this has nothing to do with that, because I'm not selling my soul. I'm selling a body without a soul. The movie is called Body Without Soul, which, rather poetic.
I don't really know if I believe in this concept of sex work being radical. I know people who would get in this argument with me all day. To be honest, we don't have that argument because I don't want to have it again. but also, like, on the other note, like, sometimes I do find that the leftists who I generally agree with more on most topics, they like seem to like very much memorialize sex work. And so, like, I know me and Chris have been having a lot of conversations about that. Well, I'm not as well read as him, so I'm like trying to understand like Marx and like this idea, this like concept that a lot of these people are talking about of productive versus non-productive work. And so literally we spent the last like 2 days like arguing back and forth about productive versus non-productive work, so I could write some notes on it or something.
Yeah.
But like, I guess I just don't. I think that this is the part where I was kind of also talking about like maybe like a heterosexual versus like a homosexual view of this. Like, is that I think it's a lot easier, and maybe you don't feel this way. I don't know. You'll have to tell me, but like I think it's easier for gays to see the value of like of sort of like the dark underworld that sex work is part of, you know, like that porn and prostitution is part of. Like yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's a necessary thing, and like when we were arguing about it, Chris was like, maybe you should talk about like maybe you should like drop this idea that like I don't actually know that much about this, but he was like, what about this idea? And he mentioned something called the situationalists, who talk about that like all cities have a sinister zone, you know, and like traditionally like that sinister zone would actually be a place like a red light district or something.
Yeah.
But at this point, you know, it's sort of confusing because it's like online now, which I don't know. That's like a whole nother concept, you know, that like about, you know, like that goes into like online dating and like, you know, like and old school like gay worlds where like cruising was part of gay culture, and like what we've lost when we lost cruising, you know, like, you know, people now like, I don't know, there's like this Alan Badiou book, you know, where he's not talking about gay people because he's definitely not gay, but but you know, like he's talking about this idea of pants, right? Like this idea that we lose online, we lose this idea of pants. Like you go online and you look for exactly what you're looking for, whether it's, I guess this can relate in the way that like you look for, you're like, I want, you know, like a white dude with a beard or some shit, you know?
Yeah.
Or I want somebody who's a manager at a tech company or, you know, whatever it is. Like,
right.
Like, and I guess the same thing can technically apply also to the way that people buy sex online.
Well, there was sort of there was a more working class version of all of this, both in terms of just gay, say, cruising, and sort of a more opportunistic and less like the idea of sort of a very like fixed gay identity, as in I'm a gay person, and I'm a gay person who enjoys, you know, white dudes with beards who, you know, whatever, call me daddy or something, and this is like my specific taste. Is very much tied up with a sort of a professionalization of all of this and a kind of catalog shopping aspect, which, yeah, clearly like market logic applied to shit like Grindr or whatever it kind of plays into, and then yes, porn categories play into, but the death of even these sort of you know, the seedy underbelly as a place where it was sort of a melange, a mixing pot, right? Of like, these are sort of all the people who don't fit into the sexual mainstream of a picket fence and you know, doing it once on a Sunday with the lights off with your wife or whatever. We'll all sort of gather here, and then they'll sort of figure it out together and create an underworld that is a sexual expression in of itself. And yeah, maybe we have lost that, right? Because it's all very clinical and like it's subscribed to the Onlyfans of the content brand you most identify with.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting.
I think also kind of touching on like the dark world part of like why maybe the gay community is more like aware of its role. It's just not that long ago the gay world was all underground because we were viewed as deviant or problematic, and so like we had a lot of crossover with like
We still are if you're doing it right.
like the homeless and like the sex workers and stuff. Like Stonewall had a lot of sex workers. So maybe that's just like part of the culture of like we're just culturally ingrained to this kind of secret world that most people aren't familiar with. Which maybe the younger gays I don't think really have anymore because now they're all on TikTok being famous and they're like just very accepted. So
yeah, none of them are getting railed in alleyways, are they?
Yeah, cruising's like dying, I'm pretty sure.
Tragedy. I am curious just in terms of maybe the escorting side of things, because obviously you have a large following on Twitter. You have a well curated presence online and things like that. But as you say, like so you've referred to Chris. Chris is your boyfriend who's the one who connected us. And I'm curious about just like maybe less of the political in some sense, and more of the personal around too many people who maybe have fully internalized a kind of monogamous heteronormative world. Even the idea of having a steady boyfriend while also being an escort is sort of weird to them. So like, what do you kind of think about that, and like how do you navigate that, and what don't people know about that, even that aspect of your life?
I mean, like we're both definitely like have an open relationship in our regular lives, also, but I don't know. I guess I don't think of it that much, but I don't know. I mean, I guess he's just knowledgeable enough to know that like when I'm leaving, I'm going to work, or whatever,
Right.
Or, I mean, we don't live together, but
yeah, but I mean, that's curious in terms of it does speak to the fact that I mean, it's a job, right? In terms of for you and you're like, I think there's a confusion about it, right? Just because it's like, wait, when I go have sex with somebody, it means one thing, but you're able to go have sex with somebody, it means something different. And like, well, what?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah, it's very much so a job, and like also like I guess I read this like really like kind of funny thing today that like it's sort of different, but like it's actually unrelated, but like it mentions like this idea of attachment or intimacy. What did it say? It said this theory of like this theory treats sexual intimacy as the pinnacle of attachment. And I don't know. I guess like that's like I feel like that's like a discourse also happening on the left, sort of, right? Like of whether sexual intimacy, like the value of sexual intimacy, sort of, and like I don't know. What do you guys think about the value of sexual intimacy?
Well, I mean, I think maybe it's getting back to some of the gay stuff around like the gays maybe have an easier time separating certain forms of like or like three things, right? Like family, adherence to tradition, intimacy, and sex. And these things might coincide, but they also just might not, right? And this is a sort of the freedom we're sort of granted as gay men, I think, is a sort of like the difference between sort of getting off with a like-minded person who also wants to get off, but it kind of not being loaded with any connotation versus, the person you want to build a life with and enjoy all sorts of kind of special intimacy with and build familial structures, whatever those might be, traditional or non-traditional, and things like that. And so, I wonder if that's sort of the some of the moralism you experience on the left, where there's a sort of disapproving of the idea of dismantling the family. Because people regard that like there's a working class version of family that actually people think like that's kind of good and maybe we shouldn't throw that out, but they don't necessarily understand. They're talking usually about straight people, and we're like, no, fuck it, we're the gays, we get to do this because we're good at it.
Yeah, I definitely think the concept of dismantling the family is kind of ridiculous. Like, actually, to be honest, like sometimes people talk about, like sometimes leftists talk about that being such a thing, and I'm like, I don't even feel like I know anyone who talks about that. I don't know. Anyways, like, I feel like it's like a hot issue right now. This like dismantling versus not dismantling, and I'm like, where? Anyways, like,
Yeah,
I
who
don't
are
know,
these
like,
people?
maybe they, yeah, I don't actually even know who they are, to be honest, but I'm definitely like, I mean, I just don't even know what that means. Like, I mean, some people want to have a family, some people don't. Some people want to have a non-traditional family. Like, I definitely like love my like, you know, like my both my like chosen family and my like birth family, and like I love like the relationship that I'm building with like that I in future I'm building with like my boyfriend or whatever, you know. But also like, yeah, in the way that it's maybe slightly non-traditional in the way that like I also like have intimacy in with other people as for work or something.
Sure.
So you mentioned productive labor, and I was curious, like, do you think sex work is productive labor? I mean, when I think about it, I think there's a big difference in between like porn, where the product's like a film or a video, versus more so like escorting, where the product is intimacy or like sex. I guess I'm just curious, like, what are your thoughts on the productive labor argument around more so? I think escorting, yeah.
Wait.
Moreover, like escorting, where I think there's less of a clear productive product.
Yeah. So I was like thinking about that a lot, and like, so the reality is like, I think a lot of people think they have already found the answer. Like, I think there's a lot of people out there who are like, oh, Marx listed sex work as non-productive labor, so it's non-productive labor or something.
Yeah, but he was banging the maid, so you know.
Was he?
Oh yeah. No, do you know the story? It's kind of amazing. He impregnated his maid, and then Engels, like who does not want a friend like this? Engels took the blame and said it was his kid, and then supported the child born out of wedlock so that Marx wouldn't get in trouble with his wife. Is that not like bros before hoes?
Marx was married, but Engels wasn't. Is that what was up?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Engels, as a single dude, was like, "Oh no, it was me that knocked up your family maid."
So like, anyways, like on the subject of productivity, like I understand where people are going. Like, let's face it, like I'm always thinking about fucking Amy Therese and like what she's always saying about sex work, because isn't everyone or something? But like, but like, I understand where she's coming from, because she's talking about like a very specific type of quote unquote radical sex worker constantly attacking her, right? Yeah. But like, I personally do think that, and one thing I don't understand about Marx is like, does it even matter in like a Marxist, if there was a Marxist society, would it even matter what what was productive and not productive? Like, that's one thing I don't understand. Like in a model of some sort, like, does one thing get banned because it's not productive or something?
No, I mean, I think the argument is largely around like who becomes the who are the people who are situated just due to their relationship to capital to be the agents of revolutionary change. And in Marx's time, right, there were different social different social norms around prostitution. It was clearly existing, but it just meant something different maybe. And so who knows, like, fuck it, maybe the OnlyFans cam girls are the true revolutionary subjects, but like, who knows? And I don't think it's a high stakes argument. It's more like, intimacy has value. I think it has intrinsic value, and people are willing to pay for it. In that regard, it has a commodity form, right?
Yeah, but wait, real quick. So the concept of production is like the idea is that the people who made the decisions, because right, in Marxism, you're trying to raise up the proletariat and the working class to like have them make their own decisions for themselves in a way.
Right.
And
yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, no, exactly.
And so the concept of being productive versus non-productive is that if you're classified as productive, then you make the decisions.
Yeah, you should be able to determine something about the conditions under which you produce value that is, value to society. And so, I think that maybe part of what we end up falling into the trap of is saying that, this sort of like, cam girls who are part-time cam girls and most, full-time NYU law students or whatever are doing something very different, right? They are pursuing a kind of hobby. The question is, does a gay escort, is he fulfilling an actual sort of societal need? And if you regard that need as actually necessary to people's, happiness and human flourishing, well, fuck, maybe it is. I don't know, but it also doesn't. I feel like it's not that important a question to resolve as much as would I rather be on the side of the people who are doing that kind of work, or would I rather be on the side of like the Goldman Sachs CEO who's buying these services on the side? Well, fuck it, I'd rather be on the side of the people providing services.
Yeah. Well, and I do think that sex work provides like sort of like beauty or not beauty. That's such a silly. I shouldn't have said that. But like I think it provides a service. It provides intimacy or fulfillment of a fetish, or just I don't know, like an escape from something or something like that. Like I think it can be escapism. And also, like, I think it provides people, with this dark underbelly kind of thing. Like, when we were talking about this, Chris was like, yeah, even like Andrew Gillum. I mean, like, this is like a whole thing. Like, I don't want to get too deep into this, but like, and even Andrew Gillum was like, oh, I need to go like do some coke with some hookers.
Who's Andrew Gillum? Like, sorry, I'm behind the times here.
Oh, Andrew Gillum is just some Democrat in Florida.
Is this the guy that was giving the like meth injections to like young black men? Is that one, or is it another one?
No, he's not the one who was like they were finding all these dead bodies.
Yeah. A different one. Another Florida Democrat.
Actually, now that I'm talking about him, I'm like, was he even elected? I can't even remember. But he's just like a Florida Democrat who they found him in a hotel with like a bunch of male prostitutes and like.
Oh, he's the one who broke quarantine to do drugs with prostitutes, right? Male prostitutes, and
I think that was pre-quarantine. I think this whole situation was pre-quarantine.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I know the one you're talking about anyway. Now, yeah, yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it clearly is a deep need, and I'm actually curious about. You sort of mentioned the fetish fulfillment thing, because we talk about we sort of there's a glossing of yet again maybe that takes place between when people think about sort of women prostitutes or whatever versus the kind of gay world. You might think about a little bit about like wish fulfillment or fetish fulfillment that people can't get otherwise, or is kind of specialized, versus just like, I would like to have a vagina to put my penis in, kind of like. And so I'm curious in terms of your escorting, like, do you is like, what's even the economics of that? Is that like the sort of thing where people are willing to pay more for something very specialized, or do people not really discriminate? Well, they're paying for your time, or?
I don't know what everyone does, but I mean, I always charge an hourly rate, so it's always for time. But
okay.
But I definitely do delve into fetish stuff. Like I actually worked at a dungeon in New York for a little bit. But
see, and that's very that is very specialized, right? I mean, in terms of like, I think people can ignore maybe the fact that the idea is like, Matt, stop being a sex worker and go get a job in telemarketing. And yet there's some incredibly skilled labor going on if you kind of know how to push somebody's buttons in this way, right?
Yeah, I guess I would say that. I don't know. I would say that especially for fetishy people. Yeah, I mean, some of the fetishy people I know like spend so much time, like, I mean, learning about these things, like, and some of it is even like so specific. Like, I don't know if you want to like hear about
please.
like specifics.
Do you know our audience? Like, go ahead. You know, you're on safe ground here.
Last time I was in your hometown, actually. I saw this one client there. Almost like every night I was there. Like I guess I said the right word or something. I don't know, but he was really into like financial domination. And I would say that financial domination is one of the trickiest things because it's all about these like keywords. It's like kind of insane, you know. Like this guy just was like he would just repeat the same phrases over and over again. He'd be like, "Tell me I'm your human ATM, please, please. Okay, what happens when you stick your dick in my ass? Does money come out of my wallet?" Like, and I'm like, yes.
Yes, it does.
I stick my dick in, you know, like in your ass, money comes out of your wallet. You know, like it's very.
It's funny you mentioned that only because so you know we have a Patreon now very recently, and we have a $3 tier, a $5 tier, and a $10 tier, which we call Twink, Twunk, and Daddy, and we're gonna add another one which is $10,000 a month, which is just like pay pig.
Good. Is that what it's going to be called?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Well, maybe we'll have to consult after this on exactly the language we should use to get somebody to fucking sign for it. But you know,
I think you should call it. I think you should call it human ATM.
Okay, I like this. Okay, there we go. It's going to be called that.
So I don't know if it's too personal of a question, but I know for at least in the straight porn industry, there's quite a narrow gap of how long you're profitable or desired to produce porn. Like I think girls have like a few years, and then usually most are done or no longer can find work. Is that really an issue in the gay world? Like, do you have a plan after porn and escorting of like what you'll do, or
is this a long-term career?
Yeah.
Or like, how do you feel about it?
Well, I think definitely in gay world. Maybe not for everyone. Like, I don't know. I mean, some people definitely are working like the young twink angle.
Us.
And they do expire eventually, apparently. But, no, but I definitely think that is less true in the gay porn world. Like, I don't know. Of course, there's definitely certain people who really are working a certain angle, you know, like, and also like, I just think about it. I don't actually know that many people who have been in porn that long, like where you see their progression from like starting out as like a, 20-year-old or something, and then becoming a daddy. But definitely like there is tons of work and just because of gay sexuality, like like daddy porn is totally a thing. Even being a daddy escort is like totally a thing, like, and they make good money. I personally like, I think that's definitely not as much of a case in gay world, but I personally, I don't know, like I said, like I think I've been doing some sort of sex work for like about 13 years now. And I, at this point, I'm mostly just trying to save up for like whatever future plan I might decide to do. I don't know, like, it is hard though, because it's hard to know when or if to quit. I don't know, like, I feel like I always thought like, oh, when you're 30, you'll find a different job. But then it's funny because it's just like, I don't know, at this point, this is just what I've been doing for so long. It's like really hard to imagine doing something else, sort of.
Well, I mean, there's clearly, you have 90,000 followers on Twitter, so there's clearly an audience for what you're doing right now. I am curious. You say 13 years. You're I don't know your exact age, but I have to imagine that places you into the when you started, you would have been squarely in the discourse of the age gap discourse, which I don't know if you've been seeing a lot of that today. I'm curious where you fall in this. People saying it's unacceptable for a 24-year-old to date a 18-year-old or whatever, or Glenn Greenwald with his he was 37 with a 19-year-old boyfriend, and they're now married 16 years later. Do you take a side on this? I mean, I assume you see an age range of clients and things like that.
I don't know. That's confusing. I mean, I definitely like usually end up dating older men. Like, I mean, I think me and Chris are 15 years apart or something like that.
Really, I'm doing some wild math there because I think I know how old he is. So now I'm adding 13 years. You might wait. Were you a teenager when you started?
No, I think I was like 19 or 20.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really hard for me to remember the exact age.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I'm just trying to do a lot of like mental arithmetic after 3 glasses of wine. It's tough. But I mean, but I am interested. Like, do you find there is I mean, there's a reputation maybe just in this discourse stuff of like, oh, you're an escort. Your clients must be all just like old, dirty, creepy men. Because you are a younger man. Do you see that?
See, that's something that's really funny. So yes, like I would say most of my clients are older, but like what's so funny is like as I get older, my clients, like a lot of them get younger. Like I'm having clients who are younger than me.
Really?
Like a lot, quite a few, like kind of more than I would expect. And also like I mean, like, I don't know, like, I feel like I'm kind of, like, personally, I feel like I'm kind of, like, into ugly dudes a little bit. I don't know, like,
we'll tell your boyfriend that.
But
he listens, I think. So.
He definitely listens. But, like, I mean, I don't think they're ugly, but, like, I guess, like, society might or something. But I saw the funniest meme the other day. It was, like, one of those handshake memes, and it was, like, gays and I wish I could remember. It was like gays and something, and like they're shaking hands, and they're like ugly dudes or something. I don't know, but whatever. But anyways, like what I was trying to say is like I definitely get actually a lot of clients that are objectively sexy, like or.
Yeah,
objective.
No.
Wait, that's objective.
No, we're going with objective. We're going with the objective hotness. As the podcast is called Twink Revolution, so we simply have to embrace the notion of objective attractiveness.
We've already established it when we talked about Chaston once.
Yeah, so. Chaston Buttigieg is objectively ugly.
He is objectively ugly. It's true. But what? I don't know. Something that is really interesting is I feel like I wonder if my sexuality would. Okay, like I definitely used to be more of a bottom, right? But like at this point, I feel like I'm actually more of a top in my personal sex life, and sometimes I wonder if that's just because of the work that I do. Like, because most of the time I'm topping, but both in videos and like in escorting, and so I don't know if that is like off subject again, but
no. I mean, no. This is. I feel like it's kind of interesting just because, I think one of the reasons we were so interested to hear from you is that everyone kind of has an opinion on this stuff, and people regard themselves as experts in, say, the provision of porn, merely because they're consumers of porn. And I just feel like the reality in terms of like even some of these tell-all narratives people talk about the practice of doing porn. If you're a gay man living in a city, you probably know some people who've done porn, and you might have done a little bit of porn yourself. But like, I feel like this is sort of the stuff people don't talk about. Is like, yeah, what is the impact on your personal life in this way and your personal sexuality? Just because it's outside the normal experience for people to say, think that your job would impact your sexuality. For most people, right? For me, I work an office job, and like, it turns out like there's no less sexual place on earth than my fucking shitty office. But for you, it's different. Your job does flow into your personal relationships, presumably, and your personal sexuality outside of work and things like that.
Okay, do you feel like there's anything in your job that would affect a personal side of your life?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in terms of I will have a stressful or bad day, or somebody will be, mean to me at work or whatever, and then I will go turn around and, be terrible to the people in my life, or mean to the dog or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
of course, right? I mean, it's the idea that you can compartmentalize your job. I think is the exclusively the preserve of those who have jobs that sort of are not tied to their survival. And if you're a fucking Vox writer or something, I'm sure you can like spend all day on Twitter calling people out and then piss out an article that's like, is OnlyFans the new social welfare? And then yeah, I'm sure you could sleep great at
Oh
night.
God. I was just informed that like apparently what was it like? So, is this true? Like I don't know. I was just informed like that like apparently like people like this is how it was said to me. I'll say it how it was said to me, and then you can correct me. But like that apparently like DSA or something was advocating for people to start OnlyFans during COVID or something like that, or
I don't know.
We just gossip. Like,
I've seen so there was a bizarre San Francisco Chronicle editorial called shit, what was it? The title as so we've actually on twinkrev.com we just published an article by a guy named River Page. That is fuck. He got the headline is surreal. It's like these people were out of work. OnlyFans has set them free or something. I'm paraphrasing badly, but literally that was the headline. I've never, at least I'm only, on the periphery of many DSA things these days, but I haven't heard them specifically recommend that, but, it's certainly a popular opinion that this is a sort of liberatory act for many people, right?
Yeah. I guess I don't know. It's so confusing. I don't know. I mean, it just kind of reminds me of like when people like move out of their houses into tiny houses, and they're like, now I can work from national parks or something.
Yeah,
my tech job or something, like in my tiny home that trails behind my truck or something.
Right. It feels like the dream of self liberation. I'm curious. Do you have a? It's not OnlyFans. What's the other one? Just for fans or whatever. You distribute material in this way? I mean, how important does that end up being for your relative income versus, working through studios or things like that?
For me personally, that's like a side thing. A lot of people enjoy it, and I enjoy it in the way that I get to make porn that I would want to see.
Right.
But
it's more of a creative
I get to
outlet
enact out my own fantasies.
Okay.
But I don't particularly like doing it. I find it irritating, and like all day long, like once you have an OnlyFans, like all day long, you'll be receiving messages from like random people like on Twitter being like, we have to shoot together. Like, when are you coming to Orlando? Like, we need to make a video. Like,
wow, they should just ask you to come on a podcast, on a political podcast, like a normal person.
But like on that note, like for me, wait, I think this is still on subject, but like, for me, like that is like a really small part of my income. Like anybody who has the amount of income that I get from that is like, it's just like, why even charge, kind of like, but like, but definitely I know some people, who actually like, I'm pretty sure make a full living doing that.
Right.
But
so
they really put a lot of effort into it, and they've like, been establishing a. What were you saying?
Oh, I was gonna say just like going off of like the OnlyFans emergence, like we're seeing primarily like porn being decentralized rapidly to like everyone's running their own studio or OnlyFans and their own Twitter profile and their Instagram page to link to their OnlyFans. Do you see this like rapid decentralization of like the porn industry impacting more established adult entertainment studios? Like, has that reduced the pay, or has it affected the industry at all in any way you've noticed? Or
It's definitely the pay has been. I feel like the pay was already reduced before OnlyFans,
okay,
but definitely industries are start. I mean, definitely studios are starting to like cease to exist, or they find like new ways to produce, um like like in San Francisco, like kink.com sold the armory or whatever,
Yeah,
and
big tragedy.
like I don't even know if they're really I don't even know if they're really producing anymore, like that company. I don't really know though, like if that's just for fans, or if that's just like that everyone online is. I mean, yeah, okay. I think we have to expand it from just for fans, from the fact that like everybody wants to have their own Twitter where they show off their dick or
yeah.
whatever, like even if whether they have an OnlyFans or they're making money off of it, or they're just like, look at my dick, like it's hard, I don't know. It's definitely studios are going under.
What do you think it's in terms of like the there was a social stigma, right, that kept a lot of people out of this industry. It maybe enjoyed for whatever challenges it offered to people working in the industry. The stigma maybe protected it somewhat. And as the stigma goes down, right, and where you can still, you can maintain a job as a lawyer, or, a journalist or whatever the fuck it is, and also do some sort of like fun, just for fun porn on the side. Is that essentially, is it a kind of scabbing, right? Like in terms of people moving into this industry who are sort of part-time tourists in it, rather than like paying the actual price of being a porn star.
Yeah, I feel so conflicted about that, because okay, like, because clearly like scabbing is bad, right? Like like
Well, it's not
like we have,
unionized in general, right? I mean, but like,
yeah, it's not unionized, and also like, what would it even look like to have a union? I mean, okay, maybe this applies more to porn. We'll just stick to porn with this. Like, okay, so like with porn, I don't know, like maybe like a union could do something for porn, like for porn actors, or porn stars or whatever. I mean, or porn companies, producers, whatever. But it's just confusing, because this has always been like, I feel like, because like it's just sort of always been like a job for. Okay, this is like the thing about it, is like it's always sort of been, for a lot of time, it's been a job for like outcasts in various ways, like as we were kind of talking about before, and it's just confusing. Like this has always been a job that like people do when they are sort of outcast in various ways, like and okay, like for instance, like I know a ton of trans people, like who don't come from a lot of money, and in a way, like they're freaks in this world, and like this is the only way for them to make money, right? Like, is to, escort or make porn, or something like that. And so, but it's hard to say too, because like those people are not getting excluded by just for fans people either, because like it's different for me. Like, okay, like I'm just like a dude in the world or whatever, like I and then lawyer dude is a dude in the world, like probably from a higher class or something, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and it is interesting, like in that case, okay, maybe he's scabbing, I don't know, like,
Yeah.
he's like a class traitor, but taking your work.
Well, I guess
wait, what was that?
I guess I can ask, because of this decentralization of porn production, we're seeing, or at least from like an outsider perspective, the elimination of a chance of collective bargaining or unionization, which has emerged in other countries. So I think, do you see it as like a threat to any future gains in like labor power in porn, or is that not really something you foresee coming? So don't really think about it that much.
Well, in New Zealand, where I'm from, there's the New Zealand Prostitutes Collective, and not so much. There's not a lot of porn production in New Zealand necessarily, but this was an organization that existed prior to the decriminalization of prostitution and solicitation and brothel keeping in New Zealand, and continues to essentially act as at least an industry body that tries to maintain, some basic standards and to lobby for better working conditions and things like that. I mean, do you feel like but the thing is that formed well before any of this was legal in New Zealand, and so I wonder whether the rise of this in of things like OnlyFans, where it's like you're a 19-year-old in college and you like show off your dick on OnlyFans. You're not really in the same boat of being like, wait, can I join together with other people and refuse to work or lobby for certain conditions and changes that would actually make everyone's lives better?
Yeah, it's weird because like on a personal level, like I feel a small amount of animosity towards people like that, but also, I don't know. Part of me is like, who am I to say what that person can and can't do, or something. Like, I don't know. It's a confusing thing. It's just like, so it's a really interesting question, but it's just like so out of like, it feels so like out of the realm from like the reality that I know, that I'm like, it's hard for me to think about it. Okay, like how does like a prostitute union essentially, like how do they gain anything? Like how are they powerful in any way? Like what do they do? Go on strike and not have sex? Like it's a little bit confusing.
It's a very
like,
Alyssa Milano's sex strike, right? Is didn't work out very well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like right, Georgia still like that was part of the Georgia thing, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Oh, nothing. I just I think it's annoying. I think like I do think it's annoying, but I still like I'm like I don't know like what right I have to say that, because like okay, like in that case, all of the marginalized people who do sex work could potentially say to me, "Oh, you're stealing my business," to me, like a person like who probably could have had another direction in my life, right? Like, and like in a certain way, like I mean, it's reasonable that they might feel that way, but also it's confusing because I mean, specifically with me, I've chosen basically I have like a certain like thing that I'm working with that not that many other people are working with. Like I really pull off this certain fetish essentially, and like would those marginalized people be pulling off the same fetish and filling the same niche?
Yeah.
So
I guess just rephrasing it, instead of like focusing on the people choosing to do OnlyFans, I guess, do you more hold an animosity or dislike the construction of these new sites like OnlyFans and Just for Fans, which are like creating the platforms that are destroying the more established porn industry? So it's not so much the people doing it, but more these companies coming in like smashing any chance of centralized porn industry.
Yeah, I think that I would feel more that way if there was ever a chance in this country of something like the porn industry being unionized or having a centralized thing like that. But like also like it was kind of dying. It's been dying for a while. You know what I mean? Like it's yeah, I mean like that would be really cool. I don't know. Like if mainstream porn it would be really cool if mainstream porn like could have a union. I don't know. But the reality is like that I'm pretty sure that industry is like already dying. Like actually you guys, I think we're talking about police unions, and you were talking about how like if there was a blacksmith. Sorry, I keep quoting you, but that's funny.
We love that.
I listen to too many podcasts. I listen to too many podcasts, but you said this thing about like how nobody had to get rid of the blacksmith union. Blacksmithing died with horse riding, right?
Yeah.
And in a way, we're sort of at that point, like I think that the mainstream porn industry is already dying. Like it's sort of like irrelevant whether there's a possibility of unionization. You know, like I said, I wasn't going to talk about straight porn world that much, but like I think that maybe, or you know, you were talking about all those tech boys, or was it
Check boys. Yeah.
like everybody knows those boys are super exploited. Like
Right.
they could use a union. You know, like that fetish is not being taken over by Just for Fans, I don't believe. Like I've seen a few of them, but it's true, like those boys would really benefit from like a union. Like they're clearly exploited. Like I have like, you know, really wealthy clients who I know like have been to Czechoslovakia and, you know, seen Czech boys, and some of them are like, oh, you wouldn't believe how cheap the boys are there, you know, like
Right.
and stuff like that. And yeah, they like the things that unionization could do for them, like would be amazing. Like, I mean, it would basically stop trafficking. I don't know,
Right.
like in those places. Maybe not. I don't know. That's a hard order. I shouldn't say that. I take that back. Actually,
Well,
it wouldn't stop trafficking. Like nothing.
No, but I mean, it might at least improve some of those conditions. I do have a kind of.
It would improve the.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it would improve the conditions of the people working legally.
Right. So I've a related question, which is only to say, obviously, you know, we exist in a similar sort of online set that loves to kind of, you know, talk about or talk with concern about whether things like sex work is exploitative in the abstract. But I'm curious, for you personally, do you feel exploited? Do you feel like your labor conditions, you know, could be better, should be better? Are you an exploited worker?
I do not feel like on a personal level like I'm an exploited worker. I understand like the concept, yes, that like under capitalism we're all exploited. But like on a really personal level, like I don't feel exploited. However, there's definitely like a ton of sex workers who probably feel highly exploited.
So what do you think the difference is for like, in just in terms of like the specific niche you've found versus maybe for other people who just are having a shittier time in an industry that you've found, you know, a groove in?
The difference?
Yeah.
I think most of the people who feel exploited mostly feel exploited because this is work that they're forced to do because we live in a society that hasn't created another job, or doesn't have a, you know, sort of like a not a catch net, what's the word, like a social, what do they call it?
A safety
like
net.
a highly useful, a safety net. There's no social safety net in this country for people who fall between the cracks. And so definitely there's like a ton of survival sex workers who they don't have a safety net, you know, like and I think they do feel exploited. And I think they especially feel exploited, you know, like people are always trying to ask for lower rates for them. They feel like maybe because they're trans, they can ask them for a lower rate or something, or they feel trapped. They don't have any way to get out of this industry. Maybe they want to do something else, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious for you. I mean, so there's a sort of there's like a very like liberal and even right wing narrative around this of like, well, if you're doing sex work, you know, you should just get a better job. So I'm curious for you personally, like, you know, what is the at least the kind of job in the abstract that would make you go, yeah, I'm done with all this. You know, I don't want to do any of this. I'm not going to do any escorting, any porn anymore. You know, like presumably minimum wage telemarketing job is probably not the thing that would get you to change your life, right? and do something different with your time. But like, is there sort of a sense in which you like, does any of that narrative hold true for you, or are you like, nah, fuck off? This is what I choose to do, and I shall, you know, go fuck yourselves.
I don't know. I've thought about that a lot. Like, I have all these random things that I think sometimes I'm like, what, wouldn't it be cool to do this? You know, like, most of them on a really personal level. Like, I at this point in my life don't really want to go to school for like, I don't know, 4 to 8 years, you know what I mean? Like for some of the things that I would maybe consider doing, you know, like sometimes I'm like, oh, it would be cool to be a psychologist or something, like but I don't think that I really want to spend 4 years of my life. I mean, that relates to like some Bernie Sanders shit in the way that like maybe if college was affordable, like I would maybe consider like doing 4 years of college to do this sort of thing or something. So I don't know. I do actually like doing my job, kind of like, I don't know, at this point, like I'm very familiar with it. Like it's I get to travel a lot. Like there's a lot of perks to it for me. Like
it's kind of more than most people can say, honestly, that they like their job at all.
Wait, what was that?
It's more than most people can say that they like their job at all. Like that there's anything they like about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I kind of do like my job. I don't know. I mean, there's other jobs I would like too, but I don't feel desperate to leave this job at all, really. Like, I think there's other things I would be really interested in doing. I don't know, like, I'm trying to think of one. You know, I think it would be really cool to be a forest, to work for the Forest Service or something. Like, just most, you know, like I think I would actually probably hate that job, but I think it'd be nice to have the excuse to spend that much time in nature.
We've seen what you do in nature, Matt. It's not I know it's a typical forestry service job.
Yeah, no, it's true. I do a lot in nature.
Well, you mentioned Bernie.
Does that answer?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, you mentioned Bernie, and I think some people might be confused why someone in the sex industry would be a supporter of Bernie just because in his past he's voted for policies like Sesta Fasta. And I know he's mentioned the possibility of like decriminalization of sex work, but I don't think he's fully on board. So I'm like, what about Bernie made you want to support him?
Yeah, I really am a fan. Clearly, I'm, you know, like I spent a lot of time volunteering for that campaign, and I'm not a political person. I mean, I'm a political person, but I've never participated in electoral politics before. Yeah, like the way that I see it, and the way that I talk to other people I know who are sex workers about it is that like the policies that he like, okay, when we talk about like sex work and like activism and stuff, like really we should mostly just be talking about people who are survival sex workers, right? Like,
yeah,
I mean, we should be talking about everyone, because like all workers, like, you know, all workers need, you know, deserve to be treated like fine, you know, or whatever. But
yeah,
but his policies would like inherently like anybody who's forced into being like a sex worker because they're trans or something and they can't like afford their rent or whatever. It's like his policies are so clearly like for that, like free healthcare, you know, like free getting your tits chopped off. Like it's not free, but it's like guaranteed these things, you know, like guaranteed, you know, what's it called? Like reassignment surgery, guaranteed, you know, like housing as a human right, like healthcare as a human right. Like these are the basic things that people often do sex work just to make those ends meet. And if we lived in a society that inherently made those ends meet, like those people, they might want to do something else with their time, you know, instead of feeling exploited by being forced to do that job.
So I'm curious, would you?
Would I what?
Would you, in terms of if those sort of basic rights were guaranteed, would you do a different job? And I feel like you've got there's a sort of specialized set of skills you do.
Well, for me, it's just a little bit different because I make enough money to go beyond just like meeting the needs that are not being met, you know, like, and so, but that's interesting because I was thinking about, like this concept. The reality is that like I have occasionally traveled to other countries and then realized like you can make the same amount of money doing sex work in those countries, and some of those countries like are just like European countries, like they're not poor countries, but they um but they inherently are like have more socialist policies,
Right.
and thus I believe that affects. I don't really know if I can prove this, but I think that affects the wealth inequality inherently to some extent, and thus, see, this is the conflict that I have about like this is part of the conflict about like the productive work aspect. Like is this a job that would exist in the same way if we didn't have an elite class?
Right. Which it probably would, but it might look very different, right?
Yeah, it would look very different. And in some of these, like, I don't know, the UK is a country that I'm thinking about. Like, people do not get to charge as much there. And I mean, the UK is not like an excellent example in any way of like a social democracy or something, but like, they do have some basic social things. You know, like they have the NHS, they have, I don't know, like what else does the UK have? I don't even know.
They certainly have unemployment. There's sort of a pretty universal like unemployment benefits and disability benefits and things like that, and better leave and sick leave policies and things like that.
Yeah. And so like there or Canada, like I know people who go to Canada, like inherently like people don't make the same profit, but they have this standard of these basic needs met, sort of.
No, that makes sense. I once so I used to live in Denmark, and behind the central station there's a neighborhood called Vesterbro, which is kind of famous as like the Copenhagen red light district. I remember walking back from a friend's place in Vesterbro, and there's a woman of the night sort of approached me after dark. She's like, oh, hey, honey, 100 krona, I'll make your night. And I thought I was being terribly clever, or, I thought I was truly dismissing by being like, oh, I'm gay. And she, without missing a beat, went, oh, that's all right, hun. I'll fuck you in the ass. I was like, oh, I kind of just want to take her up on the offer just for the comeback. Jesus Christ, it was great. But yeah, no, I mean, that's it's a good point you make to say that there are plenty of countries that are sort of social democracies and sort of with benevolent welfare states that still enjoy a roaring trade in prostitution and pornography. Denmark was actually the kind of porn capital of the world for a long time, particularly with gay porn, but like hardcore porn in general. Basically, Denmark was shipping it by the container load to the rest of the world because they decriminalized it well before everybody else. So they were like, "Fuck yeah, we'll profit off this." And so the maybe the utopian socialist vision of like, well, if everybody has housing and healthcare and food and a good job, they won't want to do sex work. And I feel like we conflate the conversation to say there's the people for whom that's true, as in they're doing sex work literally to eat or feed their children or to keep a roof over their heads, versus those who are like, you know what, this is a kind of job that works for me. And yet we kind of mash those two conversations together, right?
You asked also about Bernie and signing FOSTA SESTA, and that made me think about, I mean, to be really honest, like, I think that was a really confusing bill, and I think a lot of people signed that bill not understanding it. And I think also maybe that's the one part where it's kind of like, why aren't you listening to all these activists screaming at you? Like, I don't know, but like that's the one place where you're kind of like people are always yelling about this shit. Like, did you not know that like this thing or whatever? But what I was going to say, something that also is like really annoying about the whole FOSTA SESTA debate is then somebody brought it up, and then like at some point, I don't know, I can't remember if this happened in like real life or on Twitter, but like at some point then all of a sudden, I believe like Cory Booker and Elizabeth Warren were like, oh, we're gonna decrim sex work or something. And then like all these like dumb faggot hookers were like, oh my God, vote for Liz. Like she said she's gonna decrim, and you're like, oh my God, like, and then like you're like, I don't know, you just like, you're like, can't you see through it? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like,
I don't know if it counts for anything, but all the sort of gay sex workers in my life were all giant Bernie bros. That might just be a sample distortion, but you know, I feel like yes, most people can see through that and being like, I don't know if Liz Warren's going to be the one to quite get it done. I don't know if I quite believe her.
Yeah, it's like one thing that was confusing about that is I'm like, all right, he's not just going to say something out loud. Like he's not going to meaninglessly like, you know, like it was like the Kamala moment where she like yelled at yes to reparations. But the reality is that it was like, she's not making a plan for it. Like,
well, and she was a DA.
And that's one.
She's definitely prosecuted plenty of sex workers.
Yeah, and like the thing is that like one thing about Bernie is like he doesn't just yell out things till he's certain about them, you know, like
right.
And I don't know, that's like one thing that's really interesting, I think, politically, just like in our world right now, like just sometimes people just want people to say the word, but it's
yes.
like, and this applies to many different aspects in our lives, right? Like people just want to say like, you know, like you've been talking about like how people just want to say abolish, you know, abolish the police, which it's like, yeah, we do believe, like we all believe that the money needs to go towards other things that will help communities, and that will in turn like help a crime situation. But like these like random turn of phrases like are just words, you know, like that politicians are using to manipulate us.
Yeah, no, it exactly is that. To say that you'd probably rather support somebody who uses the wrong words and then does the material changes that actually benefit your life, right? Rather than somebody who's good at using the words and is definitely going to sell you down the river as soon as it's politically expedient. Yeah,
for sure.
So I'm afraid we're coming up on time. But I definitely want to say, so you know, with appropriate not safe for work disclaimers, you know, if you don't use your work computer, friends. But Matt, how do people find you online and your both interact with you on Twitter? You're Matt Muck XXX right on Twitter, and then you've got a website as well, right? Is that
it is? It's mattmuck.com.
Cool.
This is so funny. This must be the funniest link that you've ever put in your bio.
It's pretty good. I'm not gonna put you on the spot and say that everyone I know who does porn, it's a pseudonym, but I'm just gonna pretend it's your like real legal name. That's what's written on your birth certificate, because it's just more amusing to me.
One thing that's funny is I actually had one of those mechanic shirts. I got a little label for it that it says Matt Muck on it, and I thought we were going to be FaceTiming today, so I was like, oh, I'll wear this shirt today. It'll be like amusing if I wear it. So I'm wearing it.
Damn it. All right. Well, can you snap a selfie and we'll put it in the episode description. I feel like it's a good
yeah,
one.
I'll snap a selfie.
Thank you. Matt, thank you so much for joining us. And go check Matt out on Twitter. He is he's out there doing the work in more ways than one. And we appreciate you being here.
I don't know.
Thank you.
That's right.